being comfortable in talking about these topics without shame, without stigma, I think is extremely important. Also, obviously, parents, may not always have the information and be equipped to engage in this way. Obviously, because they are also not trained in this, right? They can give their life experience, which is extremely vital. But referring or accessing resources or approaching professionals wherever required can also be really, really important.
I wanted to hear, suppose we have 3-year-olds, different age groups, what would you suggest? What kind of communication should we give? Up to which age group should we do communication? And at different age groups, what kind of communications would you suggest for telling the children to be careful?
I think that, talking to our children about any of these, I think starts from as early as maybe 1 year, 2 years. Like, I would want to ask you, at what age do we start teaching them that this is your eyes, that this is your nose, that this is your ears, right? It starts at that age, because that's where we also teach them that this is their private areas, that this is their genitals. So I think that information about their bodies, about what they are experiencing emotionally, mentally, socially, it starts from a very young age and it goes on until adulthood, I believe. So at whichever developmental age the child is at, accurate information about their social development, keeping all of these all of these stages in mind, we can provide them with such information. And we also have these resources on our website, which actually talks about what all information can you talk to at which age. So perhaps that resource can also help you with that.
Ma'am, have you posted your website in the chat box or something?
We do that.
Yeah. So are you saying that there are small videos which I can show the children at different age groups? Or is it just a list of what we should speak to them?
Sure. So there will be information in various forms. We may not have videos exactly for all age groups, etc. What we do really encourage is that the adult in their life become aware of these topics, and so that they can have a one-on-one conversation with the child, in the sense that we can also show the child a video, etc. But children are very curious, so it will be important that we can also have a conversation with them if they have any such questions for us. So yes, it will have resources in different formats that you can see what's most comfortable for you.
Yeah. And so would you like to collaborate with Vishwa to come out with these videos for different age groups? Because we are tied up with quite a few schools and we would like to show it to them.
Yeah, I think that's something that we can definitely have a conversation after this, and we'll be excited to do that.
Yeah. Another question is the movies which are coming out in the I'm not there, and they're becoming such huge box office successes. And the kind of I am not even clear why they are a success, and is it because of lack of literacy, and what is the impact of such movies on young adults?
I have the same question as you. I think all of us do. We don't know why such movies are created or released other than entertainment purposes. But we know that media is extremely influential, especially at a developmental age where they are easily impressed. So they are going to consume a lot of information that we get from movies, etc. Now, while we can't at an individual level really control what movies they release, they don't release. What we encourage is that if you know that your child has seen such a movie, or if you think you want to address it at a school level, it's important over there to then proactively talk about the scenes that they've shown in the movie, what it means, what it doesn't mean in real life, how what they are showing is actually harmful and not okay. Teach them, build empathy amongst our children so they can also identify that what they are watching on media is not accurate or even healthy, helpful information. So maybe that kind of dialogue can be entered into.
Hi. Sorry, I did want to jump in. Hi guys, I'm another member of Torchbearers. So when we do our workshops, we actually use a lot of these Bollywood references, like movies that are really popular, and sort of introduce this idea that, maybe what we are talking about today, that, for example, consent is important. And remember this movie that you really liked, actually they don't really talk about consent in the same way that we are doing right now. So we like using those references and sort of giving an alternative view of looking at those. And that also can start a lot of conversations which otherwise we don't really think of.
Okay. There's one question from Ms. Jyoti.
Namaste to everybody, all the participants and the panelists. It is not a question. I would just like to put forth a small suggestion, something that I practice. I am a dance teacher. I'm a Bharatanatyam dancer and a teacher. I have a different approach when I teach my students. I'm very friendly with them. They, in fact, discuss a lot of things with me. And a couple of small kids of mine, they have more than 3 to 4 occasions they have said this to me. हमारे building में एक uncle हैं वो अच्छे नहीं हैं. So I really believe that God has instilled this software in every girl. They understand that something is amiss, but they don't know how to express it. So I prod it further and I ask them, क्या हुआ? आपको डांटते हैं, गुस्सा करते हैं, भगाते हैं? नहीं, ऐसा तो कुछ नहीं करते हैं. चॉकलेट वगैरह देते हैं, घर में बुलाते हैं, लेकिन वो अच्छे नहीं हैं. So this particular thing with regards to the same individual was said by 2-3 different kids. So what I did was, when their mothers came to pick them up after the class, I just told them, देखो आपके बच्चे किसी ऐसे इंसान के बारे में ऐसे बोल रहे हैं, तो एक नहीं 2-3 सारे बोलते हैं, तो कुछ ना कुछ होगा ना, तो जरा आप प्लीज केयरफुल रहिए, जरा ध्यान रखिएगा इस बात पर. This is one thing I do. And the other thing is, I have a daughter. My daughter is now, by God's grace, doing fashion designing. But right from her childhood, my husband is not very comfortable discussing sexual issues and sexuality, etc. So I used to always tell him, if you're not comfortable telling her because I feel, parents are the windows to our kids. You are the first stop of their queries, their questions. If you're not able to answer them, do not shoo them off saying that you don't need to know this at this age. No. Dilute the answer in such a way that they can understand it at that particular age. My daughter had asked me this once, Amma, your chest is very big. Why is mine is not that big? So I told her, Bacha, you're very small. When you grow up, when you become 12, 13, your chest will also become big. So she was happy with it. The next question was, will it pain? So then I asked her, do your nails pain when they grow? No. So this is the natural procedure. It will grow. Then she was very happy, and you know what she told me? जब मेरा छाती बड़ा होगा ना, मेरे को अच्छे bra लाके देना. So I feel as parents, we need to really open up and discuss these things without an iota of shame. It is nothing to be. I tell my daughter, sex is not bad. Sex is not sin. However, if it is not practiced in the proper, circumference or framework, then it can be detrimental. It can have hazardous effects. I feel as parents, we need to become best friends of our kids so that they approach you with all their doubts with regard to any kind of sexual activity. I feel it is very important. Sometimes I feel more than children know, we need to educate parents on how to tackle sexual issues with their kids. Because what we do is, तुम्हारी उम्र में इसकी जरूरत नहीं है, तुम जाओ, हम तो तुम्हारी उम्र में सीखते ही नहीं थे. Agreed, but हमारी उम्र और थी आज की. Yesterday my daughter has asked me, do you watch porn movies? So I told her, yes, I have watched it. Then she asked me, with whom? I told her, with my mother. And yes, it is a fact. And then she told me, when can I watch with you? I told her, beta, मेरे को 1 साल और देना, so that I become more comfortable with you watching that stuff also. It is not healthy to watch it, but you should know what happens in that nonsense. So I feel parents need to open up, really. And thank you so much for giving this opportunity, and God bless you and Vishwa, each one of you. You are doing an awesome service. God bless you all. Thank you so much.
So I have a question here.
Yeah.
When the children are so curious and they want to see the private parts of adults, how do you deal with it? Because out of their curiosity, they want to see.
You're asking me this question?
Sure, you also could answer that.
You know what I did was, when we were abroad for 12 years. We have just relocated to Mumbai last October. So on one of the visits that we had here on vacations, there was a female cat in our house. She delivered her kittens. So I made my daughter see the process of delivery. And then she was around 8 or 9 that time, and she was pretty intrigued by looking at it. And she said, "Amma, itna takleef hota hai, bachcha paida hota hai." So I told her, "हाँ बेटा होता है, इसीलिए कहते हैं कि माँ बाप को दुखी नहीं करते." That is one thing. And the other thing, I told her, this is how a child is born in every mammal.
Okay.
So I have not hid anything from her. I tell her everything, so that she is able to take stock of situation whenever it is necessary, because we are living in a very volatile society these days.
No, thank you so much for sharing this with us. And I think you brought up some really important points of adults first gaining the information and awareness themselves, and also comfort, because I remember even in school, and I've heard this from multiple people, even biology, often teachers, while covering anatomy and sex, would be ye tum apne aap ghar jaake pad lena, ye would skip over that section, right? So being comfortable in talking about these topics without shame, without stigma, I think is extremely important. Also, obviously, parents may not always have the information and be equipped to engage in this way, obviously, because they are also not trained in this, right? They can give their life experience, which is extremely vital, but referring or accessing resources or approaching professionals wherever required can also be really, really important. So having a set of resources, which we'll be happy to share some material that can be accessed, but those kind of options are also available.
So to add to that, we also work with parents and adults, because so for example, if a child is curious, they are just curious. The discomfort is coming from us, because we know what connotation is added to private parts. So when we are uncomfortable, the kids pick up on that. And they figure out that, okay, this is a topic which is not comfortable with my parents or with other people. And that just adds to the curiosity, but they have no outlet left now. So which is why when we sort of work with adults, we also try to look at that conditioning. That the kid is just asking questions, like they would ask that, okay, why is sky blue? We freak out, and that gives them an additional message that, okay, there is something about this that is not fully okay. So the more we act casual and what other conversations we are having, the more okay they'll also become. Which means that even if we want to give an answer of this is a conversation that maybe we can have later, that's also okay. But when we freak out, that just adds a little bit more shameful and uncomfortable meaning to the whole conversation.
Just two quick things, I won't take much of your time. Just two. Jyotish here. One thing, as parents, what we can do is, if we are not comfortable discussing this with them, just buy time with them. Tell them, I don't know the answer, beta. I'll look it up and let you know. And then, work on how make yourself comfortable in dealing with this. And the other thing, one small instance, my daughter was 8 years old that time, and we were one request I have with all parents is, when you're watching movie with TV with your kids, if you find any of this adult content coming on the screen being displayed, when the kids are watching, don't jump the channel. They get intrigued. Why my mother is changing the channel? Just treat it as normal. So during one of these days, when we were watching Animal Planet, they showed zebras mating. So suddenly my daughter looked up at the screen and she told me, "Amma, ye log jhagad rahe hain." So then I said, "Nahi, inki dosti ho rahi hai." So then her question was, "Aisi bhi dosti hoti hai?" Then I said, "हाँ, जब ऐसी दोस्ती होती है ना, तो एक छोटा zebra पैदा होता है." So then her answer was, "Oh, अच्छा ऐसा है क्या? तो ठीक है." And then she went about playing around. I think we need to buy time with them. Do not shoo them away. Please, as parents, don't tell them you don't need to know it. They need to know every bit of it. With that, I thank you for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'd like to ask Atmani to unmute. We have a question.
Yeah, thank you so much. and my pronouns are he, him. And firstly, when I heard Jyoti speaking, something that came into my mind, if she doesn't, again, if they don't mind, gets me bringing this up, is that is it ethical to actually tell the parents that their kids had come to them saying that ये uncle बुरे हैं, because often the kid is then told कि ऐसा क्यों बोल रहे हो किसी के बारे में, despite it having the right intention. I think there's a possibility it might backfire. So that way, I think we can reflect a bit on the approach that we take in revealing this information. And two, when Jyoti mentioned pornography, why is pornography looked down upon? And why isn't there enough resources about ethical pornography that involves basically ethical pornography, and also understanding things like kink, fetishes, etc. There isn't much resource on that, and why isn't that talked about? Because again, that would mean alienating a certain section of society, right?
Yeah, sure. So, okay, so when we look at pornography, also it is seen under the same stigma, the same shame as sex being something dirty or something bad. And again, pornography, when we talk about pornography, there are nuances, right? Because a lot of pornography is not ethical pornography, where people are coerced, are forced, are it can be a form of violence as well. So we don't want to encourage or condone violence and that kind of industry in that sense. But there are other options like ethical pornography, which involve adults who are consenting, who are actors or porn stars who are paid and remunerated for the work that they are doing, which is any other form of work. Like sex work is as valid as any other form of work. So looking at ethical pornography, it's just that we don't have enough awareness, and also it's more effortful, right? Finding ethical pornography, finding sources which are doing it in this way. So there's nothing wrong with porn as long as it's ethical, as long as it is not coercive or abusive or violent towards anybody, as long as no one is getting harmed.
At what age group can they actually see children?
So that is a tricky question, because I think most kids right now with access to internet have access to porn. So I wouldn't say that, okay, after this age it's okay. I think it's more important to have conversations with children about sex, about porn, about ethical porn, about how pornography often is a fictional creation. Right? Because many a times when we are viewing porn also, it's like, imagine as a 13-year-old, if I'm looking at porn and I'm looking at one, man engage in sex for, hours with multiple people, that is the impression I'm also getting, like, okay, this is what sex is supposed to look, not what happens in reality, right? So having these kind of conversations and distinguishing what are you seeing in porn and how that is fiction, how that is, that maybe that one scene has been taken over multiple takes. So those kind of conversations, and again, empowering them that, okay, look, if you have questions or if you are curious about this, you can come to me and we can talk about it, and we can kind of, normalizing and creating a safe space for kids to share these kind of thoughts. That's what I would say to that. But if anyone else has anything to add,
just have like one more input at this is also that when we look at porn, like there's a lot of emphasis on sex, but what gets sort of ignored is the desire behind it, which is what prompted them to go there in the first place. And the second bit is, if you look at, it's also an act of intimacy. All of these things are usually absent from the porn that people get access to, and then the main thing sort of gets lost in that aspect. So when we are talking to kids, it's okay to actually normalize the desire that prompted this particular action or this particular path. and then having a conversation around that, why this particular thing has these many pitfalls, or like, this is what you're exposed to, and this could be the disadvantages of it, and this is what's happening. So when we're coming from a place of understanding this is where the desire is, that's what's normal, and what else is sort of happening which we probably wouldn't want you to look at it, like believe in itself, then that's also a good space to have, because we are not really demonizing their action. We're not really putting a lot of moral obligation on them. We're understanding where it's coming from.
May I speak?
Yes.
This is Zenobia. I'm a counselor, and I have come across children who have either witnessed their parents having sex and have been genuinely disturbed. Sometimes there have been instances where there have been class discussions and children become obsessed with experimenting and getting to know further. And how do you account for that?
Okay, so does anyone else want to, Pankti, would you want to?
Yes. I think that a couple of things that I would like to, one is just validate how they are feeling, empathize with how disturbing it could have been to see someone that they've looked up to their whole life engage in something that they may or may not know about. So I think it's important that we talk about the feeling aspect first, and then maybe understand a little bit about do they know what they were doing. So ask them to talk about what they saw, what they thought was happening, and to then clarify, saying that, if they don't have information about what sex looks like, to tell them that what sex looks like. Of course, this is also has to be done in an age appropriate manner. So based on their understanding, if this is something that they can even fathom. So at that, having such a discussion with them, and to also let them know if they are, I know that when we are working with children as professionals, we also speak, we can also speak with parents directly, or we can encourage children to speak with parents directly. So in that case, I would also want a little bit of intervention at a parental level, where us as professionals can let them know that, that maybe this is something that has happened. Maybe they can be more mindful about their privacy, etc. But really, I would just honestly engage in a conversation with the child, and to give that child proper information and to validate their feelings. I hope that answers your question.
Generally, these are very private issues between couples.
Yeah.
So an outsider talking does not impact as much as it does when the family itself talks about it. And parents are not very comfortable talking about it. Secondly, they are not informed about it, and they feel that they don't need to talk about it. Yeah. So that those are issues that are causing children to get more obsessed with sex and experimenting with it.
Yeah, we agree with you. Which is what we hope to do, which is what that, most of our sessions lately have been with adults, so that they become comfortable talking about this, so that they can address shame that they feel themselves before even speaking with a child. But yeah, these are very real challenges, especially in our context, given our culture and society, etc. Yeah, it's a challenging
question that I need to ask. May I jump the queue, or is anyone waiting?
No, please.
You see, post-COVID, one has noticed that there's a lot of preoccupation amongst young people with the LGBTQ movement. Is there any information that can be passed on to the children? Because some of them have begun to believe that they are lesbians, or some of them have begun to believe that they are bisexuals. And is there any way we can help them?
Definitely. I think just want to reiterate that we do have resources on our website which can help facilitate these conversations. And as you rightly said, I think we've also seen it in movies and media nowadays. There's a lot of representation from that community.
Exactly.
And I know that there's a myth such as, like, okay, if I watch a movie which shows a gay relationship means that I'm going to, and if I like that movie, does that mean I am gay? So those kind of questions, curiosities, myths do exist, and we can inform ourselves and children with the knowledge. So there is a lot of information there on the internet, which again we've curated on our website. But you can also feel free, if it's something that you cannot access, feel free. I mean, you can write to us and we can get back to you as well.
Thank you.
Just to add to that, we also do conduct workshops specifically addressing sexuality aspect or understanding gender, understanding sexuality. And the reason for doing that is precisely because a lot of people have questions and curiosities, and they are in that there is no one age to figure out your sexuality, right? So people can have questions when they are, say, 5-6 years old, or they can have questions when they're 50 or 60 years old. And so we do like to have these conversations, and we wish to have this conversation with all sorts of age groups in that space, so that they know at least where to ask and look for, which is what we also asked in the poll question, that people may have questions that they just wish they had someone to talk to, and they did. And so we also hope to become one of those people that people can come and talk to and ask these questions, and then maybe we can expand that network for them even further.